glad I checked. So, all right. If you would start actually by introducing yourself, I'd love to let my guests have like an audio cue in for your voice. So you can give me your name and then like quirky or professional, whatever you want to tell me briefly, like this is who you are.
Oh, okay. Well, my name is Tito Livas, and I'm like a step away from being an animal hoarder, if that's thing. I have 5 chickens and 2 geese and 2 cats and a dog, 2 rabbits, and 2 ponds, as well as a saltwater tank inside the house. So I have a lot of animals. If that's like one thing that everybody knows. It was in my wedding vows. Like I said, thank you for marrying me, even though I want all the animals, because I kind of do.
So that begs the question, if you're one step away from being an animal hoarder, like what is the one animal you're missing before it's official you're a hoarder?
Oh, well, I mean, for me, I don't think hoarder is a term other people like to use, I think. For me, if I had more land, I would have so many, but I don't think it's that there's one animal that would make me a hoarder. It's that it's any animal, like not one specific. If I get one more animal, it's going to be like, that's just too many.
This is the line and we go no further.
We can't go further than that. So, that's me. I love animals.
That's a really fun fact. I appreciate that about you. I reached out to you to interview you because you are a playwright. Will you talk to me a little bit about how you got to that point? Because that is not the only thing that you do, and it's not even the longest talent-based or storytelling skill set you have. So, tell me your journey.
Uh, I've wanted to be a writer for a long time. I like most people, I have all these ideas in my head, but I could never figure out how to get them down on paper, and to really like delve into them. And Plan-B Theater, which is a local theater here in Salt Lake City, they decided to do an actors or a most of us are actors who want to be writers, and some of us aren't. But initially, it was an actors who want to be writers workshop, and then it just became an playwrights of color workshop. So everybody that is in this workshop is of color, which is great because we never really hear our stories told very often, and we don't really have opportunities like this where we are given a free workshop. To hone our skills and be taught by somebody. Her name is Julie Jensen. She is a well-known playwright from Salt Lake City, and she's had work done all over the U.S. But she was our teacher, and she would tell us exactly what we need to do. And just taking this class made me realize, or this workshop just made me realize I have a specific way of writing, I think, of telling a story. And Julie said, she said to me, most playwrights can't visualize what their play is going to look like. They can hear it, but they can't see it. And she's like, but you can see it. And that is very rare for a playwright to have. So she's like, keep writing, keep doing it, because you have a gift for seeing things that most other playwrights don't. You know exactly what it's supposed to look like, and you can make us read from the page what it's supposed to look like, and that's a gift.
Do you think, I want to interrupt you for just a second. Do you think that comes because you come to playwriting from acting? Or is that just like native to how you process information?
For me, it's just native to how I process information. Like when she told me that, I was like, wait, that's not how you guys are doing it? And then everybody else was like, no, we can't see it. And me, I've always been very visual. When I don't know if you know this, or if other people know this, but you know how when people say some people don't have an internal monologue? Like, you know how when you're just like, what are you thinking? Most people can tell you what they're thinking, but there are people who are like, nothing. There's nothing going on up there, which was, that was baffling to me. I was like, what do you mean there's nothing going, there's always something going on up there. So when people say not everybody, or when professionals are like, no, not everybody has an internal monologue. For me, it was kind of the same thing. Not everybody can picture things the way that I can picture things. I've always just been so visual. So whenever I'm writing, I'm not, my first instinct isn't what are they saying? Mine is, where are they? What am I seeing? What am I looking at? And then from there, that's where I can decide what the story is going to be. So in the workshop, when Julie was like, okay, the first thing I want you to do is imagine a smell. Where is that smell? What does it look like? What does it feel like where you're at? And a lot of people had trouble with this, but I was like, there, done. Like, it was just immediate, because that's how I create. So being mainly an actor, I don't know how much that had to go into it. I'm sure it did a little bit. But since I was always more visual than anything else, it just came naturally to me. that aspect of it. But yeah, basically, long story short, or actually longer, I got into it because Plan-B Theater decided to offer us, people of color, a way to write. And from there, it just kind of started. And I've been very lucky that my work has actually been produced in the ways that it has already.
Yeah, I definitely want to get to like what your titles are and where they're at and headed and everything like that. But I want you to elaborate first on what you mean by not having your voices or your stories heard or told, because I feel like maybe people outside of the theater industry or outside of the conversation about performers or writers of color or white American theater might not understand the shorthand we're using in that conversation.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Okay, listeners, if I were to say name a play or a musical that has people of color in it, traditionally has people of color in it, would you be able to name more than 2 or 3?
Okay, so they're going to go Hamilton, probably, right?
Yeah.
Maybe they'll say like Othello.
Okay, with 1.
And then let's see what else would probably come up. They might have heard of like A Raisin in the Sun or Fences.
Mm-hmm.
Or Roots. They'll say Roots, right?
Root, yes. Now, what you've done is that what's funny is you just kind of proved one of my points, is that for performers of color, most of the stories that have been told that are well known are from Black Black centric stories. I am Hispanic. I am Mexican. Can you name any?
And then they're gonna go, wait, Hairspray is still Black. Then they're gonna have a conversation about what is supposed to be Once on This Island.
Right?
And then they're probably gonna go, South Pacific is Islanders. And then they're gonna get stuck, right?
The only one that most people will say,
A West Side Story.
Yeah, there it is. There's the West Side Story one. But if I were to say name plays that you love, that you know, name musicals that you love, that you know, that have white people in them.
Boom, 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 boom.
All of them.
Yeah.
It's literally all of them, except for, no, all of them. Like, except for like Raisin in the Sun, but even then, and Fences, stuff like that. But our stories just aren't told. And beyond that, yes, we have stories that need to be told, but also the plays and the musicals that people are used to seeing on stage, they're not about race. Typically, like if it's a Ragtime or a Hairspray or Fences or anything like, or West Side Story where it's racially based, then yes, obviously. But if it has nothing to do with race and it's a story about love or forgiveness or redemption or whatever, race isn't important. So why we aren't in them, I don't know. But it seems to me that the only way that people of color typically get cast in things is if it's a story about their specific ethnicity, which I hate that. I wish we would just be cast in whatever because we fit the role, not based on what everybody else has always done or what everybody else has always seen. So when I say people of color just aren't present, we're not represented, we're not there, it's because we aren't. And if the listeners listening now, if you were able to name more than 4 or 5 plays or musicals where we are featured and starred, then congratulations. You're one. And tell me what you tell me these plays, because I'm not aware. So yeah, we're not present. And Jerry at Plan-B Theater, who runs Plan-B Theater, he wanted to give us an opportunity to be able to write our own work that would be produced through his theater organization. And we are all very grateful for that. And some of us have work that's been produced elsewhere as well.
So if I can articulate, I don't want to say an agenda because that has such a negative connotation, but when we're undoing institutional racism, you kind of have to be intentional about it. If we have playwrights of color, then we're going to be able to tell stories where race does or doesn't matter, but people of color get to be a part of it regardless.
Correct.
It's like ground up kind of a thing.
Yeah, because I mean, and even for us, if I were to say, pick your favorite play or musical, who is your perfect cast? Even for people of color, we have to switch our mindset and go, no, wait, my perfect cast would be a cast of all white people because that's what I've always seen. That's what everybody has always seen. So it's being color conscious. You need to intentionally say, okay, I want this to be a person of color. I want the person in my play to be a person of color, whether it's an old play or when you're creating. And how is that going to affect the way it's seen and the way people react to it? Yeah, I mean, I've had this conversation with so many theaters here, with Karen at Pioneer Theater and Cynthia at Salt Lake Acting Company. There's a brand new theater opening up here in West Valley City, and they are gung-ho about wanting to show representation on stage. And the constant okay, think about, don't just do plays that are ethnic centric. Don't just do a play that like In the Heights, where it's about the culture, because yes, those are amazing and wonderful and we love them, but also do a traditional play and mix up the casting if it has nothing to do with race. That way people are coming to the theater and going, oh, it doesn't have to be that way. The story is still told, the theme is still getting across, and it has nothing to do with the fact that they're white. And it's the same in playwriting. Like, just tell a story. Tell a story about whatever you want, and because we're being intentional, say these characters do not have to be white, and in fact should be a mixture of diversity on that stage. And no, that doesn't mean make the lead actors, the love interests, both white, and then the surrounding characters brown. No, mix it all up. Make it a melting pot, just like the United States is. Like, representation matters so hard, especially for somebody like me. I've been doing theater for over 20 years, and I can't tell you how many times I've been the one brown person on stage. And it's crazy to me. But I get it. Because one, I'm stubborn. If you tell me I'm not going to be able to do something, I'm going to show you I'm going to do it. And since other people aren't like that, they look on that stage and they're like, wow, I'm not up there. I guess that's not an option for me. Or look at all these playwrights. They're all white. That's not an option for me. No one's going to take me seriously as a playwright. For me, that's just a challenge. I'm like, you want to bet? Watch.
I want to ask you about intentional with your characters and everything. I interviewed about a year ago a children's book author who wrote multicultural children's books, and he was telling me that even when he is working with an illustrator of color, they'll still assume that he wants all his illustrations of white kids, and he has to like say no, it has to be this way.
Yeah.
So, are you deciding the race of your characters really early on in your creation process of your play just to kind of counter program that?
It depends. One of the plays that I've written was specifically about South American families, and so yes, thinking about it that way. But the children's plays that I do, because they're children, I give them I don't give them any, I give them names that are different and could be anybody or anything.
So we're not talking like there's no Bob or Frank or Sue. They're like,
no, nothing. The names, I try to make up my names so that they don't come up as in, oh, that's obviously a white person's name, or that's obviously a black person's name, or a Hispanic person's name. I mean, names are names. But we have this connection with names of the type of people that use them or are given them. So when I create my characters, if I don't want them to have a specific ethnicity, then I just say, or race, then I just make it up so that anybody can be it. And there's no preconceived notion that, oh, that's obviously a white kid, if that makes sense.
Yeah, yeah.
But I don't want, because I also don't want to like, I'm not a white hater. So it's about being, if you have a kid or an actor, an adult, whatever, that can do the role, that's what's most important. And if you have two actors that are like, okay, we could go with the white guy who was good, or we could go with the brown guy that is good. What's going to be more impactful? The brown guy will just be more impactful because we're not seen on stage as much. If they are equally talented, for me, you go with the brown person. And even then, if the white guy is just a little bit better, the reason he's better is because he's been given more opportunities, or she has been the ingenue in so many different plays. Of course, she's going to have more confidence. She's going to have more rapport with the directors and the other actors and the choreographers or whatever. Since we, as people of color, aren't given as many opportunities, we may not be as present in an audition room. I was just at an audition the other day, and I was, again, the only brown person there. And I'm a professional actor, and I still feel so uncomfortable when I go into a room. And it's just white people. Because I'm like, you guys are all looking at me right now going, what are you doing here? And even though they may not be, even though they don't care, that is just how it feels. And I know that most people should be able to understand what it's like to be the one different person in a room in some way, shape, or form. And if you can't, congratulations, but also get out of your bubble.
I want to ask about specifically the kind of stories that you personally are drawn to tell. What do you want to write about? What's bouncing around in there?
There's so much bouncing around in my head, Liz. For me, the stories, there's nothing specific. That's what's crazy. The thing I love to tell the most, though, is the world through the eyes of kids. I love, I don't know, I love that there's no boundary in imagination when you're a kid, and you don't see things the same way. You're not jaded yet. You're not affected by outside influence as much because you're young and you don't care yet. um, so like my play that's been produced by several different schools around the United States, Shine a Light. Like when I wrote that, my immediate thought was, and I had 3 days to write this play. They're like, write a play. You have 3 days. If you're chosen, then it will be part of this series of plays. And I was like, okay, what do I want to tell? What do I think is fun, that I think everybody would enjoy, that I think anybody could be a part of? And it was just a story about a little boy and insects. Because I don't know, there's just the innocence of a kid, I think anybody can relate to. Whereas when you're writing for adults, there are going to be people who are like, I don't get it. I don't get that. It doesn't make sense to me. Or I can't relate to that. Or that's something I've never experienced. Whereas everybody's been a kid. And granted, some people don't have the imaginations growing up, or have as much imagination growing up as other kids, but there's always at least a little bit there, and there's a little bit of that magic when you're a kid. Because I don't know, it's just there. It's there for almost all of us, I think. So the stories I like to tell are from their point of view. But also I really love to be, I don't know. The first play I wrote that hasn't been produced yet because of COVID restrictions is a very serious drama about my family history, that I can't delve into. I can't talk about it because for me, that's a play that you have to see. You have to experience it. So I don't really talk much about it at all until because I want people to see it for it to
What's
make
it
sense.
called?
It's called American Dream. And Plan-B Theater is planning on producing it as soon as we are able.
This is live theater's a thing again. Yeah.
Yeah, when live theater is sitting again. But that was a very serious drama, and at the first reading of it, I was crying, and the actors, like, they did such a good job, and they were crying, and it was wonderful. And then the piece that I wrote for Salt Lake Acting Company is completely irreverent. So
Yes. Doesn't sound like Somebody Died Beverly at all.
no, it doesn't sound like that at all. So I honestly, I don't have a specific type of story that I like to tell. I like to tell stories that people can, in some way, shape, or form, connect to. No matter where you come from, I think connection is what's important to me in some way. And I think in all of my stories that I've written so far, people can relate to them. Maybe not Somebody Died Beverly so much, because that was kind of the point. But but even then, you're either on one side of the fence, typically, of Somebody Died Beverly. One side of that fence, typically. So yeah, I don't know. The plays I like to write are just about connection and realizing that we're all people, we're all going through life similarly, and that you should focus on the things that make us the same, I guess.
I want to ask you about your process quite a bit. So do you have like a format that you love? You're like, this is how plays need to be laid out on the page.
Oh my gosh. No. No. Not I mean, For me personally, most of the time when I'm starting something, I will have like one flicker of an idea, and I will either say, okay, this is how it starts, or that's where I need to get to, and then I just go until I get to it. Or if that's where I'm starting, I just go until I've reached the point of what that spark was, until that spark is a fire. Because yeah, as somebody who hasn't been writing very long, I do not have a process. But for the most part, I am very much a chronological writer. I can't write until I know where I'm coming from. I need to have a beginning. I need to have like I don't know, it just has to run in order. So it could take me forever to get to this one point that I'm thinking of, but until I have everything in front of it, I can't write about it, if that makes sense. Like I
Yeah,
just
it does.
need to have this, I need to have it go chronologically, or I don't know, I'll be all over the place, I think.
Does it start coming out of you as a script, or are you writing an outline? Are you writing like a narrative explanation summary?
For me, it once I have that spark of an idea, it is a write. A lot of people like to do like the post-it notes, where they'll write a post-it note and put it there and then try and figure out, all these points in the story. For me, I will just start to write and see what happens, and then put it away. And then as I'm going through my head and envisioning what's happening and hearing the dialogue and seeing where it's going, then I can go back and say, okay, no, I didn't like, that's not where that's going. It's going here. So it's very much a write what I can, think about it. Does it make sense? What needs to change? Get back to it. And if I come to a block, then I basically do the same thing. I just shut it, and I have to think, okay, how do I get from point B to C without making it seem like it doesn't make sense. Like for me, it has to flow. It has to be a natural progression of thought or action. So yeah, that my process is go.
Go. Is go.
Process is go. So far, I don't know if that's going to change. But for now, it's yeah. When somebody says write, you have to write something. Then I come up with an idea, and then go, and then go back and try and make it work.
You've been commissioned by Plan-B to do one of their tour productions in 2022 and
Yeah,
2023.
2022, the school year 2022, 23, or 23, 24. I can't remember. It's one of those.
Do you haven't been commissioned for everything you've written? Some of it has been self-chosen or generated. Is that like a really different thing for
Um,
you?
let's see. Well, no, not really. I was commissioned to write once I was chosen for once Shine a Light was chosen. Then I was commissioned for that, and once Somebody Died Beverly was chosen, I was commissioned for that. But how that works is you just kind of present an idea.
Yeah, you're like pitching, right?
Yeah, you're pitching an idea, and you're saying, this is what I want to write about. These would be the main points. Here's my spark. And then they say, oh, we love that. Here's money, write it. You have 3 days or whatever. And then you just kind of go. So I guess the only difference is when I'm forced to create, my wheels turn a little bit faster because I have to get it done. Whereas with the first play that I wrote for Plan-B,
Organic.
Organic and American Dream, I wrote both of them for Plan-B. Organic is the one that's being produced this as a radio play this spring, summer, sometime. But for those ones, I had 3 months to figure something out. And so for those 3 months, everything was up here until about a week before I needed a draft to do.
So I get the feeling you like writing under pressure.
I do. I feel like writing under pressure, I don't know, forces you to get rid of crap. It forces you to be like, no, you're being too self-serving, or you're being too indulgent in something. Just tell the story, get it out, so that you have less editing to do in the end. It's just because I don't know if it. I feel like a lot of times when you're writing, you get into it and you're just like, oh, I'm feeling this and really want to delve into that and really want to make sure. Then it just becomes pedantic, and I feel like it veers too much in that direction, because you're feeling something in that moment. So I feel like when I'm under a timeline, it's like, no time for that. Go. Get to the main points, tell the story without being too indulgent, personally.
Do you have any other constraints that you're working with other than time? Like with these commissions, are there logistic considerations? You can only have this many cast members, or you got to keep the budget under this for us to produce it. What are you working with that way?
Well, for each one, it's different. For Shine a Light, for the Play at Home organization, they said you can have however many characters you want. We recommend 5 or 6, but it's up to you. Thinking of the ones I've written for Plan-B, because Plan-B is a not-for-profit small theater here. I wanted to keep the cast small, because the theater space itself is small. So it depends on what they're going for, because typically they will give you guidelines and they will say, you only have 10 pages, write a play in 10 pages. Or your cast has to be half people of color, and it has to be a story about ethnicity or whatever. And honestly, I think for most writers, when you are given limitations, it makes it so much easier to create. Like if somebody says, write a story
about what?
Everything. It's too much. So when you're given restrictions, I don't know, it makes it so much easier to focus on what needs to be told, or what you feel should be told. So yeah, commissions don't necessarily make a huge difference, other than it focuses your attention a little bit more, because typically there are rules on what you can write about.
When you've gone and you've done the process, do you like to have a specific person read it? Do you like to hear it read aloud? What's your kind of end part of the process in terms of like refining and checking your work?
With the workshop, actually, we read all of them aloud, and everybody in the class will give you feedback and will tell you what worked or what didn't work, and most of the time it's a divided room where people are like, no, I liked that part, it touched me here, or I didn't like that part because I felt like it was this. And that's the same with anything. It's all going to be about opinion, and ultimately, what do you feel works best for the story you want to tell as a playwright? So I like to hear it, obviously, so I can make sure that it's flowing appropriately. But honestly, most of the time, I'm just like, I hear it in my head. So when I'm writing it because I already know what it's going to sound like. I already know what it's going to look like. And that's why Julie was like, no, you hear it and you see it. Most people can only hear it, but you can see it, and it makes the picture come together. So I have very rarely made more than one or two like changes in like a line or a character. Very rarely, because when I'm picturing it, I see it exactly how I want it to be, and I hear it exactly how I want it to be. Most people, like, they need other people to come in and edit it down, but I don't know. I don't know if that's, and no one's ever been like, no, you need to really like cut this or that. Most of the time they're just like, no, yeah, maybe like a change here or there, never any huge changes. So for me, that just kind of reinforces that when I'm hearing it and seeing it in my head, that I'm on the right track. And I'm not, just off in my own little world where I'm like, no, my play's perfect. Like, because I like the feedback, because I like to know that I'm on the right track, if that makes sense. But my play Shine a Light, has been produced at schools, and I've had teachers send me the footage of their plays, and it's all been done by Zoom, because that was the whole point.
Yeah.
Is we can't do live theater, so let's do Zoom theater where you have kids come and read this play and be the characters. And when I watch that and I see their reactions and I see them having so much fun with it, then I'm like, okay, yeah, it makes sense. It works. Once I see it being performed, then I think that's my, okay, yeah, I did it right, or oh, shouldn't have done that part, or something. I don't know.
What do you want to have happen from here as a playwright? What are your goals?
Way to delve in there, Liz.
Where do you see yourself in 5 years?
10-year plan, please. Honestly, I have no idea. I like to write, but also I'm such an actor that I'm like, I don't know that I want it to become my main thing.
Okay.
It would be great if I was like writing and acting all at the same time. And I would like to, I don't know. I mean, honestly, for any playwright, just getting your work produced is an accomplishment. So if I become more well known through my plays, then fantastic. But I guess I wouldn't want to become more well known for my plays than my acting, only because I've been doing it for so long.
Yeah.
I've been an actor for so long that I don't know. Maybe I want to hold off on being known as a playwright until I'm like 70.
That's going to be your second famous career, right? Like,
My second famous. I mean, I'm not even famous now. Which, I don't know. Yeah, I don't know what I would want to happen. I mean, obviously, I would like to keep writing, and I am still writing. But like the goal with anything is you want to succeed at it and you want to do well at it.
and success for you is produced.
Yes, produced in some way, shape, or form, making an impact on people in some way, shape, or form. Knowing that people are reading my stuff and saying, I want other people to see this. Because that's a really high compliment. You wrote something and we want other people to see what you wrote. So that's a pretty good goal, I think.
Yeah, I really like the way you articulated that, is I feel like most people can picture the goals for like a fiction novelist being, I want people to enjoy what I wrote.
Mm-hmm.
But there is this other altruistic layer to what you're talking about that I like theater, so that strikes me. So,
Oh, good.
yeah. um, is there anything that I haven't asked you about in regards to this topic that you're like, oh, I wish we'd have gone there?
Let's think. No, I feel like we covered a lot of bases there.
Tell me where someone, especially if this someone is like an educator, school person, where can they find your stuff? How can they, if they're like, this shine a light thing sounds interesting to me, how are they gonna find
Oh,
your work?
I think that's the only one that's why can I think of the word? Not
License?
obtainable. I think that's the only one obtainable right now. Because that is on the website playathome.org, and that website is for people who want to do a short play from home. That's the whole point. Although I have had some schools who are still in school produce it on stage, but that's the point, is that it can be done via Zoom if you aren't in school and around each other. But they're all the what did they say? The goal of the play was to spark joy. So if you want a little joy in your life, go to playathome.org and read some of those plays, because there are some pretty great ones in there. And that's where you can find mine, Shine a Light, by the little boy and insects. And outside of that, none of my stuff is like published.
Well, a lot of it is upcoming, it's slated already for other things.
Correct. But
That's,
which is weird. I never thought about that.
well, that's unique. Not, I mean, not everybody's babies are already set for adoption. You know what that's pretty rare in writing, yeah?
I mean, I guess so.
Yeah, you're like, not according to my experience.
Well, no, I mean, I don't know, because I've never done this before. I don't know what it's like. All I know is I'm submitting to things and I'm getting chosen to write. So, like how many other playwrights have also been experiencing that same thing, where they haven't really written before, but they have great ideas, and people are like, oh, okay, yeah, we like that idea. Take it, run with it. So yeah, I mean, I feel very lucky that I've been able to be paid to write and have fun and like be creative. Like I'm very I'm very lucky in that. In that pretty much everything I've written is or has been or is going to be produced in some way thus far.
That's nice. Based off of your own definition of success, you are a successful playwright.
True. Yeah. I guess so. Thank you, Liz. I'm done now with life.
Check.
I've succeeded at all things.
Ask me that 5-year plan question again so I can say, I got it, I'm done.
I'm done. I don't need a plan. I've done all I needed to do.
And now to go get another animal.
Yes. Now which animal shall I acquire?
Tito, thank you so much for letting me interview you today. It's been a delight.
You're welcome. And one of my animals has decided to come and join the conversation here.
Your cat was like, I have been called for. I heard.
What? A camera? All right.